Welcome to the Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. I'm your co-host, Bob Zarrell.
Hey, I met you. You are not cool.
With me, as always, is professional film critic Sean Patrick.
I am the smart. I am the smart. S-M-R-T. I mean S-M-A-R-R-T.
And Josh Adams.
You goddamn communist heathen, you had best sound off that you love the Virgin Mary, or I'm gonna stomp your guts out. Now, you do love the Virgin Mary, don't you?
Visit us at ihatecritics.net, ihatecritics.com, Everyone's a Critic, popmoviepodcast.com, something like that. Google it, you'll find it. We're on Facebook, Everyone's a Critic movie review podcast. We also have a group there. Our Twitter and Instagram handle is CriticsPod. You can check out the trailers, participate in our top fives, interact with each other, etc., etc. We say it every week. Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Google Podcasts, whatever that is. That's where you can listen to us. No matter where you go, though, please go to Apple Podcasts, subscribe, and rate review the show. We'll read your review on the air. But the best way to help us out is Patreon. ihatecritics.net/Patreon. We've gotten a lot of movement in the last couple of weeks, and it really is a lot more helpful than you think, especially with these peak pricing things coming out now. It's just...
Yeah, for sure.
No, I'm half kidding. But it could become an issue if, and
I mean, in the last dying breaths of MoviePass.
Right. I think MoviePass is going to stick around. They've made enough changes, hopefully. We'll see. If they don't stick around, somebody's going to stick around. So, but yeah. Anyway, that helps us out a ton. Patreon. ihatecritics.net/Patreon. Get yourself a credit on the show. I will start working on merchandise here in the next couple weeks. Jason from New Mexico pointed out a podcast t-shirt place. I don't know if we'll use that or not, but it seemed like a cool idea. And Corey knows some local people. And then there's always Amazon and the places I've used in the past. So we'll see what we're going to do there. But I haven't made any swag with the new name and logo on it yet. So I know I need to get to that because we do have Patreon supporters that don't have mugs and don't have the stuff I promised them. So I apologize for that, but they will be coming.
Yeah, our movie stars are starting to get temperamental.
Well, one of them has this stuff. The other one, I feel bad. At least I don't think he has anything.
No.
I know we had it set aside for him at one point. It's still somewhere. What else do we got? Let's just jump into the news before we get to trailers. James Gunn, for now, that's how I'm going to lead with this, has been fired from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3.
Do you think they're going to bring him back?
Yeah. It seems like everybody's on board with everybody's calling this a mistake. And
well, especially with, I know Batista said, he might be out. If this is the way it goes, he might just leave.
Now, that's what I was curious, if they're capable of actually doing that. Because, you have a contract, you kind of have to honor the contract. Is it like when Paul Rudd didn't drop when Edgar Wright got knocked out of Ant-Man, and I think he wanted to at one point, but I don't know. I'm curious if they can or not, but I bet it doesn't last because it seems like everybody's on board to keep him on as director.
It was just such a swift decision, and I know that if a company sees something like that and they feel the backlash, I think there's pressure to make a swift decision. But I was surprised with how swift it actually was.
And the lack of pressure.
The lack of pressure from those that maybe matter. And on top of that, some of the things that James Gunn had said had come out post-Guardians of the Galaxy in 2014. So in a way, they had every ability to be looking on their employees with disdain before, and they didn't when they were making them a lot of money.
He's even apologized for this before.
Oh, yeah. There's that too, and he apologized this time too. I'm of the mind that there's just a particular thing where you draw a line between too much and not enough, and in this particular case, it feels too much.
It feels like they were trying to get out in front of something that they didn't need to get out in front of. They didn't do any. It's like Did you hear what happened to Mark Duplass recently? Where he was like he was talking about this guy Ben Shapiro, and he said what a great guy he was. Then somebody reminded him who Ben Shapiro was, this right wing nutbag. He's like, "Oops, sorry about that. He was just really nice to me at a party once." And that's kind of like Disney here is like they probably just didn't even know who this Cernovich guy was. The Cernovich guy has like been trying to dig up dirty tweets and trying to get people fired. Like he's been after Michael Ian Black, the comedian, for a long time. Even though Michael Ian Black is basically self-employed, I don't know what he's trying to get him fired from. But
Right.
it's kind of funny to watch on Twitter. But yeah, he's been doing this with a lot of celebrities, just going back through their Twitter feeds and trying to find stuff that he can then misinterpret into some kind of scandal.
Yeah, trying to find jokes, which, funny or not, it doesn't matter. It was clearly he was trying to be funny. He failed. It was 7-8 years ago. It was a different person then. Acknowledged that then.
Apologized for it already.
Which he didn't even really have to do because it was just a failed attempt. I think failed attempts at jokes are just...
And especially when you're talking about a company in Disney which made a movie called Powder with a guy who was already a convicted sex offender. But, you know, that doesn't matter, right, Disney? That doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can employ the guy who's touching little boys, but the guy who made a joke about it, fuck that guy. Get him out of here.
I don't know if this has anything to do with this situation, but Disney's the parent company of ABC, and they were quick to come down on Roseanne Barr and cancel that show based off of sensitive things that she stated. I'm not sure if this felt like a counter to that. If you've got on one side doing that,
there's no doubt about
this. But I feel that somebody that really takes their time to find things that people have previously done in their life, to call them on it later in life, it reeks of a desperation that really turns me off and doesn't actually make me want to listen to what they have to say.
Well, also, they better cancel The Bachelor, The Bachelorette. They better cancel every
Big
reality
Brother,
show.
Big Brother, yeah.
They gotta. If we're talking about ABC, they've got to cancel Once Upon a Time. Is probably going to have to go because I know a couple people on that show have said some things over the years. They're going to have to get out of the sports business because a lot of those sports guys have said stuff. I mean, college students and college football better get out of that business, Disney, because ESPN. Oh man, going to have to fire all of ESPN. Those guys are gone. Lebitard, he's out. All those guys on ESPN Radio, gone. If this is the standard you're going to set, then good luck. You're going to have Mickey Mouse on every channel because he's the only problematic, the least problematic character you got.
Yeah, this PC culture is turning into a slippery slope that it's... Yeah, I don't know. We should encourage each other not to say those things. We should hold each other accountable. But at some point, you just, I don't know, try to help people grow, more than anything else. That's what I feel like is missing. It's just we're quick to, and obviously this is even beyond that. This is someone else on the other side trying to make a stupid point out. It's just stupid. I think it's going to fail.
When it comes to Roseanne, Disney didn't have to fire her.
No.
They made that choice. They didn't have to do that. They could have rolled with that and just kept around there and kept that show going if they wanted to. They made the decision to back out of that.
Yeah.
So for this to be any kind of reciprocity thing, like trying to pay back the right for what they did, like that's silly.
I think he ends up directing Guardians 3. That's just me. Want to place bets? Let's put all the Patreon money on it in Vegas and see what happens.
Ooh. Nah, too risky.
They already gave it to us, so we can do what we want. And then I posted a ton of trailers. We'll get some of the ones you probably didn't watch or forgot about already. Second Act, Jennifer Lopez.
I didn't see that one.
Yeah, I watched it. What'd you think, Bob?
It looked like a throwaway, like kind of the... I don't want to call it a romantic comedy because it's not. It's more of a...
They're for CBS Films. Because then I know what it is.
I can't tell.
Would be that. I mean, I don't know. It's just a, kind of a fake it till you make it type movie. Kind of, in a way, it's the poor man's Sorry to Bother You.
Yeah, sure.
in a very bad version of that, but it's kind of that type of scenario, I think. Although it's more faking it and not necessarily having talent.
Yeah, I guess you could say if there's one thing that stuck out from the trailer for me, it's Jennifer Lopez, who stars in this film. She's trying to follow through on a false resume claim that she understands Mandarin. And as she's at a table with a clearly important man, what's relayed back to her through an earpiece is he needs his anal glands expressed. And I don't know why, but that hit me at the right particular time that I was watching it, and I laughed. So the trailer got a laugh out of me.
But that's that type of trailer.
Yeah. Where the funniest part is something about anal glands.
Which I think the reason it would get a laugh is because you were probably annoyed you were watching to begin with. So the bar was so low that all of a sudden that came out of nowhere. Cause it kind of the same thing happened to me.
We're not the target audience.
No. And then Support the Girls with Regina Hall. I kind of forgot. It's kind of like a Hooters type restaurant.
Yeah, it seems that way. Regina Hall seems to be the business owner or the manager of a restaurant where she hires girls that you might compare to Hooters girls, but is giving them a chance and is trying to call it a family restaurant where people can look a certain way, but she wants to promote the respect aspect of it. And so the beginning of the trailer starts with a customer that's violating that rule, and she has to kick out the customer. It seems to be Regina Hall vehicle, a smaller film that honestly may or may not make the theater.
Right.
But it looks like it could be well executed. And Regina Hall is a heck of a charismatic actress. So I would watch this one, but I'm not exactly sure what it's going to tell us.
Right.
No, I missed that one too. I got swamped by the Comic-Con stuff.
I avoided that at all costs.
Comic-Con!
And was Glass from Comic-Con too?
Yeah.
I guess we can go there, Glass.
This didn't excite me, honestly, which it should have, because I love all of these movies. I mean, I love both those movies, Split and Unbreakable, but I was kind of put off by the way this trailer starts with already, like, what we were promised a battle between McAvoy and Willis at the end of Split. Like, they're going to come, like, oh, we're going to see these two together. Then all of a sudden we're just in jail already, and they're all three there, and I'm like, that's, what? No. I want to see how they got there.
I'm with you on that. But it seems kind of like the way that superhero trailers start, where you've got to have some sort of exposition to introduce how you have all three of these characters together. And now it's going to come out in January, which will be 2 years post-Split. So we can assume that people have seen Split. We can assume that 19 years ago they saw Unbreakable, or 18 years or whatnot. The trailer isn't actually a very good trailer, and there's a little something cheap about it, to be honest. It may have something to do with the font that they chose or whatever the case may be, but I did get a sense of cheapness from it. Point is, I had stated for so long, boy, if Unbreakable ever had a sequel, boy, if they could just bring that back and flesh it out a little bit, I'd like the first film a whole lot more. I still am very excited for what this could be, and if Shyamalan's on his game, then awesome.
Maybe, yeah. I'm nervous about this trailer, though. This trailer did not look good.
And it could have been a rushed trailer for Comic-Con. I don't know.
Maybe.
I mean, a lot of the trailer was just the three of them in a room. And I thought it was cool, I guess, that they were all there. But you're right. I mean, how do they get there? Is this the De Niro and Pacino dinner scene in Heat as the trailer at the, Yeah. There's a lot that gets you to that scene. So why are we starting with that? But I don't know. Godzilla, King of Monsters.
Boo. Boo. My review.
That's not the review of a lot of what I saw of this trailer, which was, this trailer looks way better than people expected, apparently, because it's a sequel to a mediocre Americanized Godzilla film. And I wasn't exactly happy with that first one, but this one actually was kind of interesting. Talking what Jurassic World tries to do and tell us, like, oh, be careful or they'll run over the planet. 5 movies later and still nothing has happened, and we're still talking about corporate espionage and all that bullshit that's involved in those movies. And in this trailer, it's like nature actually taking force. That's very interesting to me. And as much as I was blah about that first movie, because it didn't do what I wanted it to do, which is be a little scarier and a little harder. This one, on an epic scale, seems to be more of a film than necessarily a Godzilla film or a horror film. So I'm on board.
I liked that Godzilla movie. I thought it was neat the way they went about it. And I liked the way they made it look like Godzilla could actually exist in this world and we wouldn't know it.
I don't honestly remember it anymore.
You were on board. You were kind of
Okay.
more with me than Josh in that.
Yeah, I was the outcast.
I think the only thing that disappoints me is just the complete lack of Blue Oyster Cult.
Maybe we'll get it this time.
You can't win them all. And, I mean, the Kong movie, that's technically in this universe, correct?
Yes, it is. Kong.
No, that was mediocre.
Yeah,
Amen.
it was. But of course, at the end of this film, we can expect to see some kind of post-credits scene, I'm sure, involving King Kong.
Yeah. I'm at least curious of them getting sick of the universes. What about the Hasbro universe? Did you hear about this potential?
What?
Hey, what?
You didn't hear about this?
You know I hate this company with like a strong,
It
fiery
is
passion.
possible that Bumblebee movie,
Yeah.
John Cena's character is related to another toy. Like
The
G.I.
muscle
Joe.
toys?
I don't know.
Out of curiosity?
He's an army guy, so
G.I. Joe.
yeah. They may be linking a universe with.
Which that certainly happened in a comic book, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure it did too. I don't remember it. I never got into that part, but
He wouldn't elaborate on it, but the interviewer, who was Kevin Smith, said, "Well, here's what I think's going to happen," and they were just kind of like, maybe.
yeah.
Would He-Man be in that universe?
That's Mattel. That's actually, to be honest, I don't know toy-wise how Mattel is doing and if they have the chutzpah or whatever to get the He-Man stuff beyond where it's at. I don't know how much their role is in the Masters of the Universe film that we're going to get. I don't know. You know, that's an okay idea. I know that they're trying to do something different with G.I. Joe. They were trying to do a Snake Eyes solo movie nobody cared about those movies. They were bad. They were really disappointing. But if they wanted to try it again, I don't know. I like that property so much and I watched that cartoon so much. I guess I couldn't put it down. I mean, it's in the same attempt level as Masters of the Universe.
Yeah, I'm getting sick of the universes.
Yeah.
But we'll just stick with them. Shazam. Is that part of the DC universe?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I did not care for this at all, but then I don't really care for Zachary Levi all that much. He's not a very good actor. I don't know why anybody thought this was a good idea. Because this really, him running around being a child and talking like a little boy is kind of stupid. And it just makes the whole thing seem kind of dumb.
Especially in a world where Deadpool exists. You know, the comedic comic book movie.
Deadpool for kids.
And I'm not saying it's Deadpool. I'm just saying it's not going to be funny enough.
No.
At least I don't think it is. But maybe Josh disagrees.
Well, this is the Shazam film, and his main nemesis is Black Adam, and Dwayne Johnson is Black Adam. He's eventually going to make his way into this particular world. And I know nobody cares and everyone's tired of universes, but Shazam is just a different character altogether. I mean, it's a kid that gets into the body of a man, of a god, so to speak. So that's a different perspective on what we've seen. We don't generally see kids have those kinds of powers, you know. Somebody described it as, this is the trailer. We already have Big, but this is the trailer where you mix Big and superhero films. Okay, I mean, Zachary Levi has a particular way about him that if you find it annoying, I understand, because I'm not crazy about him either. But there is a way about him that could make that character work. The only thing that I have against this is that they have David Sandberg directing it, like Annabelle Creation. You know, he comes from the Waniverse, I think, where you've got... It's not exactly an illustrious directing or creative tree past James Wan and Lee Winnell. And I'll give Lee Winnell at least that credit. He's got some credo there.
Marcus Dunston's a good director. He doesn't do much lately, but he's a good director.
I'm sorry, I don't know that name. So
He's with the Saw. He does not, I think he's only done Saw movies, but
okay. But in this particular case, I'm on board. This is actually my favorite trailer of the week. I laughed a little bit, and towards the end, I said, it's better than what I expected with the talent involved.
And then Aquaman.
Yeah. Okay. I don't.
I don't think they want to make any more DC movies. Do you want to fail?
Just more of that broy stuff from Momoa, and he's not particularly charismatic in this.
He's cool looking. But he's been cool looking for a couple movies now. So
Yeah, they've got Aquaman on the right trajectory, meaning like they have a guy that is a guy from the islands and really loves the water in the role. He cares about this a great deal. But then again, you can't like they've got Nicole Kidman, Willem Dafoe, Patrick Wilson, Amber Heard playing Mira, all of these actors that are known for their acting a little bit surrounding him, kind of like Man of Steel. You had Russell Crowe et al. Surrounding Henry Cavill. They are going with the whole, like, dudes that care about it a lot and would be invested in this, and you don't have to necessarily worry about a Robert Downey Jr. having to pay him and satisfy him creatively, per se. I'm not sure about the movie, but I do like James Wan's visual style, and I think that they've pulled off visuals in this trailer way better than they have dialogue. I'll give it that credit, and I still can't wait to see it.
I'm really curious though the success of it, because it's not, there's nothing culturally behind it, like a Wonder Woman or Black Panther that adds to the movies.
Yes, indeed.
So, and your Justice League movies, while they were profitable, they weren't as profitable as you wanted them to be. And you have the character that no one cares about the least, which I think they've done a good job of bringing that around a little bit, but I just don't know how this is going to work, but we will see.
I hope it's successful. DC did a good job of paring down their properties to just the two, just Shazam and Aquaman. They didn't preview Wonder Woman 1984 to say, like, hey, this is still coming next year. They were really focused on that. They didn't announce, like, for sure that the Batman is going to happen and cast members and whatnot. They didn't announce a Man of Steel sequel. They didn't even talk about Birds of Prey when they were there. So at least they were focused on what they're currently working on instead of overextending themselves.
Is that all that happened in Comic-Con? Or
There was no Marvel news?
No, Marvel didn't have a panel this particular year. They pulled out. I mean, their major thing was, of course, Infinity War, and that's already done and over. They've released Ant-Man and the Wasp, so there's nothing coming out until Captain Marvel. They're not ready to show stuff from that. Totally makes sense, and that's cool.
Cool. Well, the most successful movie this week was Equalizer 2.
Yeah, this is far from the best, that's for sure. The Equalizer 2 is a lazy, silly, predictable movie that really disappointed me. The first film wasn't terrible. I mean, it had a beginning, middle, and an end. It had a character that
It was a movie.
yeah,
This one forgot the middle.
pretty much. I mean, there's like a whole stretch at the beginning that just kind of loose, structureless thing that you're like waiting for something to happen. It opens with him on a train in Turkey. He's got a beard and he's pretending to be somebody, and he sneaks into this train. And basically, the whole thing is just to remind you about that whole thing he does with his watch, where he sets his watch and then beats people up for 30 seconds, and then they're all gone, and then he takes the child back and gives the child back to somebody. Fine, that's just to remind you who he was and who he is and what his character does. And okay, then it goes for about 40 minutes of just kind of waiting for something to happen. Oh, Melissa Leo's dead. Okay, and now he's going to investigate that. This is just loose, structureless, and dull. And I know they're going for grim and gritty, but Denzel comes off as bored and irritated for the most part. They create this character, this kid, who's maybe going to be a gang member, but with McCall's help, that's Denzel's character, he's going to help him become an artist, and then of course he becomes the target of the bad guys. The bad guys couldn't be more obvious. I mean, the second you see the guy who ends up being the bad guy, like, that's the bad guy. It's clearly that guy. And it's just so lazy and predictable and dumb, and I was irritated at the beginning, and I just got bored and more bored throughout.
I didn't go see it because I kind of would have told you that beforehand.
Yeah, I didn't either. I mean, the original Denzel film, 2014, was it really 4 years ago already? I mean, it seems almost impossible, but I guess it's true. And yeah, it was a fine film. Standard. It met all of the criteria that I had for it, but it's in the lines of Death Wish. So, I mean, a better Death Wish, in other words. And that's all you're going to get out of it.
Surprised you'd even go that far.
Put your top five. Who's your top five?
I guess we'll jump right into our top five because that brought about our top five, which was top five male action. Or I guess I added the action hero part. I don't know if that was necessary or not, but male actors you think you can take. And right out of the gate, Cousin Jeff said, "Why does this got to be men?" Sexist podcast. Because when we're trying to get jobs in 5 years, we don't want some guy pulling this podcast up talking about us beating up women. But nonetheless, he said Scarlett Johansson, Adam Driver, Elizabeth Olsen, Jennifer Lawrence, Helen Mirren.
It's a good list.
Shannon Nelson had number 5, Tobey Maguire, 4, Tom Cruise, 3, John Wayne, 2, Mark Hamill, number 1, Matt Damon.
What's with the Mark Hamill hate on this particular week?
Well, it's not necessarily hate. I don't hate the people I think I can take. I like Denzel a lot. He's just an old man playing an action hero. Mark Hamill,
Sure.
Mark Hamill, most people can probably take just fine. Beth said nobody. Sarah Ward said Mark Hamill. He's so whiny. I agree. Number 4, Tobey Maguire. I cannot forgive him for Spider-Man 3. 3, John Travolta for making a string of movies in the 90s that made me feel nauseous. Like Michael and Look Who's Talking Now. Number 2, Billy Crystal as the badass action hero in Running Scared. And number 1, Jay Leno, his buddy cop movie Collision Course with Pat Morita is laughable and not in a good way.
Wow. It's a deep cut.
Josh, I got yours, right?
Yes.
You changed it from not just actors that you could take, but that you would take.
Yeah. I wanted to expand this a little.
People you actually hate.
Well, hate is a strong word, but like, man, stop pissing me off.
And it is very, very long. What's wrong with Jay Moore?
I have complaints.
Number 5, Jason.
Have you seen Jay Moore, man?
Jay Moore would whip your ass.
Oh, did he get a UFC or something?
Yeah.
Well, he's always been a wrestler.
Oh, has he?
He'd whip my ass too. I don't know.
His character in Jerry Maguire. There you go. I just want that guy.
I didn't see Jay Moore till just now, but number 5, Jason Schwartzman, 4, Jim Belushi, 3, James Franco, 2, the Wilson brothers, Owen and Luke, number 1, Taron Egerton.
Yeah.
With a shit ton of honorable mentions: John Bernthal, Will Smith, James Marsden.
I'm fixing to get my ass whooped here, is what I'm going to do as I go down this, the ass list whoop 20, you know.
Sally Field.
Her character in Mrs. Doubtfire.
Rosanna Arquette. James Gandolfini. The Alive version. Sorry. And I had kind of the predictable ones: Denzel Washington, Liam Neeson, Harrison Ford. I thought I'd throw in there Ice Cube and John Travolta. I mean, I like Ice Cube just fine, but everybody seems to be afraid of him, and he just doesn't look that tough. He talks tough, but pretty sure I'm a nice foot taller than he is. And
Let's see. Like, I'll go with Gene Hackman now.
Gene Hackman on his deathbed.
Low-hanging fruit.
Like Warren Beatty now. Dustin Hoffman now.
Clint Eastwood now.
Clint Eastwood now. Although I'm a little uncertain about that one.
I don't know.
And any of the Chipmunks.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to sound like a macho dude bro type guy when I bring this stuff up, but it's just, I don't buy into these movies because you have 60-some-year-old guys playing who aren't even like, at least Stallone's ripped, you know? you got that going for you. Sean Penn. But they're just kind of guys.
Yeah, obviously this is humorous too, because if these people are in films and action films and all that good stuff, they've at least undergone a certain degree of training that none of us have, or at least they could fake kick our ass, take us to the brink of getting our ass kicked.
Our lawyer reminds us we do have to say this is a satirical list.
Well, I don't know, man.
Serious? That level of training is, the stunt man for Denzel and Liam Neeson. Sure. Right. But as soon as they start fighting, they just get off screen. Mamma Mia 2.
Mamma Mia 2.
Here we go again.
Yes, this is a really significant improvement over the first, which is a low bar. But I got to give credit to Ol Parker as the director here, who did a pretty good job taking the nonsense of that first film and trying to shape it into something here. The idea is that it's 5 years after the original film, and Amanda Seyfried has taken over the hotel from her mom, Donna, played by Meryl Streep, and she's about to reopen it as a high-end location. She's going to be without everybody, though. Mom's not there. Her two of her three dads, Colin Firth and Stellan Skarsgård, aren't going to be there, and neither is her boyfriend, the love of her life, Dominic Cooper's character. He's not going to be there either. Sky, he's off doing something, learning how to run a hotel, so he can come back and be her partner. But he's also just been offered a job in New York, so he might not be coming back at all. So she's got a kind of a scary time going on, and she's also finding out that she's going to be pregnant. So there's a lot of stuff going on, and so there's a lot of heightened emotion. So she turns to her mom's diary once again, and she starts reading the stories about how her mom dealt with being pregnant and starting in a hotel, but more going back to the time how she met her dads. So we go back in time, and Lily James plays the young Donna, first leaving university and going off to Greece, and it's Lily James is in this movie. I don't know if you remember seeing Julia Roberts for the first time. That big smile, that first time you just go like, "That's a movie star." Like, that's Lily James in this movie. That is a movie star. She is radiant. She is just exciting and charismatic and funny, and she can kind of sing, but she doesn't really have to sing well. She just has to sell it, kind of like Meryl does in the first movie, and really Meryl can't sing very well either, but she sells it. She's performing. Like, there's a point in the first film where she does this big showstopper piece, and she can't sing, but she is selling. It's Winner Takes It All, and she is selling the hell out of it, like she's Jennifer Hudson in Dreamgirls. Like, it's that level. She can't sing, but she's doing it, And that's kind of what Lily James here, she sells every moment of this, and she's really great at it, to the point where I kept wanting the flashbacks to continue and not have the rest of the movie, but eventually the movie does kind of try and it brings those two pieces together, and it becomes this movie about mothers and daughters, and it becomes this very moving piece. And Ol Parker does a really great job of doing that. He also has a great job of nailing moments. So there's the moment where Harry and Donna meet each other for the first time. Harry is Colin Firth's character, and so the young version of him meets Lily James, and they do Waterloo together. And it looks, he evokes the cinematography and the goofiness of early '80s music videos. It really looks a lot like Animat's Goody Two Shoes video, if you've ever seen that, with that right down to the grainy cinematography. And I was like, that's really cool the way he did that. I was really impressed with that. It was a lot of fun. And there's a number of moments where he just makes it fun, but he's also hitting the emotional beats. This is a far from great movie, but it's a good enough movie, and it's certainly such an improvement over the first film that I have to say good things. I have to recommend it. It's fun.
Was the first one beloved, or was it just successful?
It was successful, but I mean, everybody the thing of this is that so your mom took you when you were like 5, and now you're going, or when you're like 10, and now you're older and you're going with her again. And it's that moms and daughters movie. It's kind of a generational thing.
It's funny that you say that. My former wife, I'm pretty sure that she went with her mom to see that first one, and I remember getting the first film for her for a holiday or birthday or something like that.
So mom takes you when you're 10, and then when you're 20, you take mom, because it's 10 years. It was 2008 when this came out.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I know.
And I mean,
it's a generational movie.
I've got no interest. ABBA doesn't really get my gears grinding.
I like ABBA. I like ABBA.
I know they have an audience that's not me, but
You gonna go see their new tour?
I didn't know they were touring.
They got back together, are releasing a new album, but they're not actually going on tour. They're sending holograms.
Are you serious?
Yes, sir. I'm
Did
not
you know
joking.
that they, in the 90s, around the time of Ace of Base, they turned down $150 million to reform and
Because
tour?
they're like their former husband, they're married couples that get divorced, and that's.
So, the $150 million they turned down.
I'm sure the royalties were just fine. I don't know. But
Ace of Base. You had to remind me of them.
Don't turn around, Josh.
You know, that song is an 80s rock song. I went searching for 80s monster. I'm sorry. I know as big rock fans here, like, it probably hurts to say, like, I went searching for monster ballads, but stuff that I didn't know very well, and I discovered a lot of bands I had no idea about, and one of them was a song called Don't Turn Around. I'm like, all right, well, let me listen to that. I'm like, this sounds really familiar. No, it was done way before Ace of Base ever did, so...
What band did it?
I can't remember the name of the band, but it's written by Diane Warren.
Yeah. She's a hack. All right. You Were Never Really Here, streaming on Amazon or wherever.
And on
iTunes.
DVD and Blu-ray now. You Were Never Really Here. Joaquin Phoenix plays a killer for hire, but the difference here is that he's kind of he's not a good guy, but he's a guy who kills people who kind of deserve it. Child predators, essentially, is who he specializes in killing. We meet him as he's in the midst of killing a bunch of child pornographers with a ball peen hammer, and he's cleaning up afterwards, and it's brutal, and it's a way. That's certainly a way to introduce a character, and then we watch it. Basically, we're going to watch as he gets hired by this guy who's a state senator in New York to recover his daughter who's been taken by a group of child traffickers. And he goes in there and he does his brutal business. But then, of course, there's a double cross on, and there's some things that happen from there. This movie is gritty, it's dark, and it's got a really nasty sense of humor. So it's got these like really peppy pop songs that are kind of peppered in here against all this dark, crazy, blood-soaked stuff. Lynn Ramsey is the director here. She did an amazing movie called We Need to Talk About Kevin with Tilda Swinton. That is a very dark and moody piece, and this is another really dark and moody piece that I really loved. This has got amazing cinematography. It's got incredible performances. Joaquin Phoenix and that 1,000-yard stare is dangerous. That is who should have been. He should have been an old boy. He should have been the guy instead of Josh Brolin. Joaquin Phoenix would have been dangerous in that role. It would have been amazing.
Or just not remade it.
Yeah, there you go. There's that too.
But no, you're right. Did you watch it, Josh?
No.
Yeah, I saw it too, and yeah, it's everything you said. I guess what keeps it from being like great for me is like Enemy Level and those type of movies. There's a bunch of like really cool looking flashbacks that are more cool than mean. I mean, they mean something, but not like they do an Enemy, or the weird shit in Enemy. That all that means something. This is just more cool than anything. I mean,
True.
So it's just kind of more like, I don't know. I wish there was more to it, but it's still neat looking. Like that very final scene. You're like, really? And then, and I'm looking like, what am I missing something? I'm like, no, that was just cool, cool and dark. But still, I'll take this to pretty much most movies I've seen in the theater this year, with the exception of like 3 or 4. It's that it's kind of what Bone Tomahawk was a few years ago.
Okay.
And Joaquin Phoenix is. I don't know if he's is good in that movie what he did with who's that director?
Paul Thomas Anderson?
No,
Inherent Vice?
The one that's coming out later this year from Good Will Hunting.
Gus Van Sant.
Gus Van Sant. That movie. That if he's as good in that as he is in this, he could be right there up there with Oscar Isaac and Gyllenhaal.
Get back to where he was before he made that terrible documentary. Kind of killed his own career for fun.
Which is, there's something beautiful about that in a way. The movie itself didn't work.
And then he's going to do a Joker movie.
You know what though?
One for you, one for me.
But if you let him do it his way, I don't. And then I saw a trailer with him and Gyllenhaal and the Sister Brothers or whatever.
Yeah, with,
I don't know how I feel about that one.
That one is a weird one. Yeah, the tone is kind of all over the place.
And you got two of the great actors working today in it, but I just don't know what it is. It's almost like I thought it was a Step Brothers sequel, but then I was like, is it comedy? Is it? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I also want to see that he won't get very far.
That's the
on
Gus
foot.
Van Sant movie.
It's him and Jonah Hill, and
yeah. But yeah, go check out You Were Never Really Here. It's if nothing else, it's one of those movies where the critics liked it and the audiences don't really like it as much. I don't think it's as split as something like Hereditary, but it's still split a little bit. But it's worth checking out if you're into dark shit.
Apparently, I'm really into dark shit. Like, I've gone really dark.
You could be a DC movie.
Sorry to bother you.
Yes, sorry to bother you. This is Boots Riley with Lakeith Stanfield starring in a story that is difficult to explain. This is a sci-fi satire, political polemic. Man, just amazing is what it is. I love this movie. This is such a nasty, transgressive movie that really just makes you. It aims to make you uncomfortable, and boy, you get there more than once. Lakeith Stanfield plays Cassius, who takes a job at a telemarketing firm and is instructed by an older man played by Danny Glover that if he's gonna succeed in this business, he needs to use his white voice, and it's not just merely a put on. Like, literally go with like a voiceover with David Cross as the voice of Cassius.
But they do a good job also of explaining what they mean by white voice.
Yeah,
they spend like solid 3 or 4 minutes explaining. You know, it's not the Dave Chappelle white voice.
Right.
It means something when you use a white voice. It's not even really a white voice. It just means you don't care. But it's
all your bills are paid, and you have no cares in the world, and
it's a really good scene.
And yeah, he really embraces it and becomes very successful, and eventually becomes what they call a power caller. But what happens from there, you're never going to predict what happens in this movie. It is amazing. Oh man, I think like Armie Hammer, best supporting actor for his role as Steve Lift. This combination of like Jeff Bezos, Martin Shkreli, and Elon Musk. this terrifying, horrifying combination of these three. Like I can only imagine. I can imagine Bezos coming up with an idea like the one that's in this movie about lifetime employment, but you have to live and work. You have to live and work for me. I think that's what they're doing at the Amazon warehouse in Seattle. I'm pretty sure. I can't prove it, but I've heard rumors.
I don't know. I don't think anybody works at Amazon. Based on personal experience.
The conditions at the Amazon warehouse, from what I've heard about, just in passing, are pretty horrifying. But
the conditions for the...
I don't know if it's gone this far yet. But there's something there. There's something there. This movie is like, I in my review I was talking about we got to take away that that Calvin Coolidge line about Birth of a Nation, where he said this is history written with lightning. That's what this movie is, but it's history that's in progress, because this is a movie that is perfectly satirical of the now, of this moment, and it is terrifying in its way and also completely hysterical.
I don't even really know what to say about it that's different than that, other than I know that it's the best movie I've seen this year, by a long shot for that matter. I had so much fun watching this, and also was so bothered by it at certain times. It's just so weird and outrageous at certain points. Sometimes that takes you out of the film, where you have 3 different tones going on and 3 different storylines, and you're weaving them in, and it just doesn't seem to make any sense, right? And this one's like 99% on target, with all of those levels making sense somehow. There's one particular scene in which Stephen Yeun has like he's leading a union that they want to form at this telemarketing agency, and then he starts talking about STDs for some reason that doesn't make a damn bit of sense. I mean, I know that they're going for a comedy there, but it just didn't hit, and that's the only part of this movie where I was wondering what they were going for there. The rest of it, though, where we've got Tessa Thompson and her weird art that somehow seems to make sense, even though it's so weird that I have a hard time connecting with it. Her earrings, I kept looking for her earrings, what they were saying each time.
Lily James was her white voice.
Yeah, I did look through the cast because I thought that it was Topher Grace doing Cassius's white voice, and then it totally makes sense that it's David Cross.
And that Patton Oswalt does one for Murray Hardwick.
This is a perfect movie because it's got satire, it's got this weird angle to it that you can almost say is science fiction.
Yeah.
It's also weirdly made. It's from a voice. I've seen an interview with Boots Riley. He was on The Daily Show this week talking about his film, and he's an interesting dude. I want to know more about what he wants to say on film, because if this is like his second starting point for what he's going to make for films, then please make more. This is just so damn interesting. And yes, it's got a commentary on what the world is going through right now, but to the nth degree. You know, none of this film is really happening per se, but you can imagine that in an alternate dimension, like one step over from this dimension, this film is happening.
I guess that's my only problem is it's like 15 steps over. I think the satire is a little off. It's a little one-sided, and that it just bugs me a little bit because when it's such a one-sided story, the main character goes through all the sides, and I like that, but everybody else, you could interchange them with him, and they do the same thing he did, but they don't really. I don't know. It misses there for me. But I agree with what they're going for. I just kind of felt it was kind of a one-sided satire. But otherwise, I wish there was more movies like this. I'm sick of going to the same typical movies. This was definitely a fun experience.
Yeah, I mean, it's not a literal thing, obviously, about what's happening. But it's what it's getting at is the moral rot that is at the center of the continuing divide between those who have money and those who don't. That is a rot at the center of this country. With the further that the rich get away from the poor, we are rotting the center of the country, and that's what this movie is getting at.
No, I got that. It was just kind of blamed only one. It was just very, kind of Bill Maher's religious type of. It was that one-sided that it kind of bugged me a little bit because there's a way to. There's a way that I think they could have done a little better from that angle. But that aside, the movie itself is, if I'm not paying attention to the satire, is just a total great experience.
Sure, I think if you say this film is a film first and then like a message movie second, or the satire part second, then I could be on board with what you're saying. I was just so much more interested in how weird it was, and
definitely.
And that's where I'm taking this movie and enjoying it so much. It's weird movie first, subgenre satire film, if I'm going to have to categorize it for the future.
and I'm with you too. I'm just, if I have to pull the one thing that if I have to look for something that bugged me a little bit about it was that. But you're 100% right. You guys just said all the good stuff already, so all I had to add was the one thing that I was bothered by. But everything else the performances are phenomenal. It is, you don't know what the hell's happening, and when you get to the end there and all of a sudden he goes to the bathroom, you're like, what the fuck's going on?
No idea, of course, that was coming.
And it doesn't take you out of the movie.
No.
That's kind of the weird thing where you thought it would, and then everything that happens after, it was just kind of I don't know, it was a wholly original and unique movie that we don't get a lot of anymore.
I was laughing myself silly because late in the movie, I was thinking like, man, this is like kind of a little Charlie Kaufman, a little Michel Gondry. That's really. Then they get to there's a moment where they almost name check directly Michel Gondry, and it's really funny.
Are you referring to the promotional video? Because that was
brilliant.
Something else. what to say about that. It's just so great. Armie Hammer really has shown me
He is
something.
so good. Yeah.
With this and the one from last year with Timothy Chalamet.
Call Me By Your Name.
Thank you. I can never remember the name of that movie, but with those two, it shows me so much more than what I thought he really was capable of, be it Lone Ranger or whatever the case may be. He has some real chops, and he can play evil in a way that evokes James Spader, if that makes any sense, because you want to hit James Spader because he's such a dick and he's doing so many things that are just wrong, but also you're like, oh, he's really good at that. Like he's so he's the new James Spader in a way. Maybe better.
That Lone Ranger movie is really the outlier for him, because if you could go back to The Social Network, where he played the Winklevosses, he was amazing in that, and it's very reminiscent of this character.
And it's quietly brought in like $10 million so far, so it's. And I'd imagine that's successful for what this is. I'm hoping. It was a breath of fresh air, and I hate saying that. It's kind of a cheesy, word or phrase, but it really is. It's going to the movies anymore is just kind of more like another one.
Yeah, this was exciting, especially at a weekend where we were talking about. I didn't get to the one of them, but there were 3 wide release sequels this weekend at the same time. And then you look up at the screen, you look up at the marquee, and everything else other than this and like Skyscraper is a sequel or perhaps maybe a reboot. It's crazy.
And Skyscraper failed largely due to the fact that it's not. So I don't know. And, this was going to kind of be a throwaway podcast. And then, we get the Joaquin Phoenix movie and now this. Not to mention our classics in 88. But now it's going to end up being a long one because we're not even close to done. But it really makes... Because I was going to go to movies this week. I mean, let's face it. I'm not going to see Unfriended, Equalizer, or Mamma Mia. And this gave me a reason to go. And it sucked I was alone in the theater, but it's still cool that I got that experience. So yeah, go see Sorry to Bother You.
Really?
We'd like to see it stick around for the coming weeks and kind of grow.
It needs the Academy Awards. It needs Best Picture, Best Director, Screenplay, Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best Supporting Actress. It needs all of those.
I wouldn't be bothered by any of that.
No, neither would I. It's like Office Space on mescaline. I'm trying to think of a movie to compare it to. If you're a fan of workplace dynamics and salesmanship and all that nonsense, you go watch this, you're like, yeah, that dude, this situation. Oh, okay. Whoa, wait a minute. What the hell is going on here? Did I sniff something wrong?
Right, but even that comparison, it's hard to make that comparison. You were stretching to find something. That's how original this movie is. So it's just go see it for nothing more than the experience and something new.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event for the linear, legitimate, and universally recognized, undisputed
Classic.
Our undisputed classic is a Just Because undisputed classic because there's really nowhere to go this week. We didn't want to do Mamma Mia, and we didn't want to do a prequel to the one of the sequels that turns at 30 this week. So I just said, Josh, pick something fun, and he picked Children of Men.
Pick something fun. Oh, the feel-good movie of 2006. Directed by Alfonso Cuarón. The first time I saw this was in the theater, and I hadn't seen it since then. So it was a really, really unique opportunity this week to revisit something that was such a powerful experience for me in the theater. And I say that as a fan of movies. I have no credentials behind me to express an experience at the theater and whatnot, but I walked out affected. And there's a reason for that. We've got a story that's a post-apocalyptic. It's set in London. Clive Owen is the star, and he seems to be something of a journalist or something. I actually can't quite tell still. It seems like he is. And he becomes part of this movement to subvert society's problematic immigration laws. And this is a society where no children are being born anymore. No one can get pregnant. In fact, they describe a scene towards the beginning of the film where the youngest person in the world died at age 26 or something. So that tells you how long it's been since a baby's been born knowingly in the world. The United States doesn't really exist anymore, it appears, and everything is very strict. Immigrants are rounded up and put into cages. Say that what you may. It's harrowing because you know that even if you're free in this world, you're not really free. And so the director sets up all of these potential problems if you have to do what these characters need to do. And everyone is nasty for the most part. Even our hero, so to speak, in Clive Owen, or Julianne Moore, introduced as the leader of this quote-unquote terrorist organization, they aren't really good people. You can sense their flaws out front on screen. All of the backup terrorists or whatnot, too, have hidden motives. They're super aggressive or super violent. Charlie Hunnam, almost completely hidden in this film, I had no idea it was him until the credits, is a hot-headed, violent son of a bitch in this movie, and I hated him, but everyone in the street is angry about the situation in the world. And you can see the lack of hope that exists. Okay, so in that sense, the director sets up, via brilliant cinematography, a world in which a lot of desperation exists. And so you almost want to root for these characters because inherently as a human, we don't understand this idea of no hope sometimes. There's always some sort of light at the end of the tunnel. At least there's always been that way. It's always been that way for humanity. And then Clive Owen comes upon the onus for the plot, which is a character that's pregnant named Key. And that's quite a thing. And he is the one, since he's connected to society that can actually do stuff, he's going to be the one to get papers to allow her to pass through and get to something called the Human Project. If you've seen an apocalyptic film before, you know that there's always this base that everyone's trying to get to be safe again. It happens in I Am Legend. It's in The Walking Dead. It's always this thing that you've got to get to be safe. Well, in this case, the Human Project is the nebulous organization. But we don't actually know that it's going to happen. There are many points in this film that leave you in doubt that can actually happen. There's colorful characters throughout, at least, even if they're not necessarily the greatest people. Michael Caine plays a character called Jasper that's pretty much high all the time and is inventing things and remembers the world past, and he seems very sad about it. You could see this, understandably, as a dark film that doesn't offer a lot other than misery, explosions, violence, and people being nasty to each other. And the last shred of the film, in which you actually sense that kind of hope, doesn't make up for the rest of the darkness. And that makes sense. But watching it again this week, I realized how important this film is to me and my personality, and how I need stuff like this to remember that even though most of the time people suck, there's still that particular light. And I think Alfonso Cuarón understands that too. Sometimes directors speak to you and their films speak to you, like Gravity did as well. The last scene in Gravity of Sandra Bullock emerging and crawling out of the primordial, it was something that's always going to stick with me. There's something about Cuarón that does that. And in this particular film, that last 15 minutes, it leaves me like feeling goosebumps because there's nothing like that in film for me. I love it.
You didn't stay after the credits, though, when they blew up the boat.
Well, in this case, I did actually watch till the end of the credits.
No, I'm with you completely. And I think that, it's... I kind of feel like life's like that there's like little mini tunnels with the light at the end, but the big tunnel, there's no light at the end.
No, of course not.
And so that's kind of... This movie really does kind of capture that, try to enjoy those little lights, in a weird way. I don't know. I just was really affected by it. And then, obviously you got that famous scene, the long shot that, I don't know, Alfonso Cuarón, he's one of my favorite directors, and I pretty much like anything he does, but I'll let Sean go.
He's a hell of a director. He's an amazing director. He directed... I think easily the greatest version of Great Expectations, the Gwyneth Paltrow, Ethan Hawke version. This is a remarkable movie. really got overlooked back in '98. People really missed on that film. And of course, I Two Mama Tummy In is amazing. Gravity is awesome. I love Gravity. This movie just didn't hit me right, and it still doesn't. It's so grim, and this just feels so hopeless. I have a hard time with post-apocalypse movies in general because I tend to see more of the good in humanity these days than I ever did before, because I can see good people like the Mr. Rogers movie reminds me of when I watched the Mr. Rogers movie and the look for the helpers. The helpers are always there. Every time something terrible happens, there's always that story, these wonderful stories of these people, like this guy throws himself over in front of 3 people and takes 10 bullets, but they're the people he saved their lives, That's the kind of thing that I see. Then that's the part that sticks with me. And so when something is so epically grim as this is, it doesn't speak to me. It's like at a certain point it became like The Road to me, and I know you love that movie too, and I'm not taking a shot. It's just those movies are just so grim. At a certain point, I just kind of check out.
There's something to be said about how people experience a film too, and there becomes a bit of defensiveness when I am in the theater and I'm experiencing this, and I think of how could somebody not like this movie? And there's a maturity process that takes place when you realize that just because somebody doesn't see the same thing as you doesn't mean that they're wrong, because in my head I'm seeing this and saying, like, people don't want to see the light. Roger Ebert's review of Gladiator, he gave that movie 2 stars. Say what you want about the film, but his main argument was that it was so grim and dark. And I'm like, well, I don't care if you didn't like the tone of it. What did you think about the movie? That was my problem with his review. It's similar in this case where I feel that, what do you think about the movie? You're expressing to me the part that takes me past that reactionist fan problem that I have sometimes, or at least used to have a lot when it came to Ebert. And it shows, at least in my head, I'm not trying to make my head real big here, but some maturity as a viewer, understanding that different viewpoints don't have to necessarily be wrong. They're seeing something else because of their own life experience. But I'll always love this one, and The Road, of course, because it speaks to what I'm experiencing in life.
Yeah, I see the good in humanity, but I also see I really see how everybody would act. I don't know. You go back to Sorry to Bother You. What bothered me about that movie is they kind of make it look he had the only one that had to deal with these questions. When I really think if you had taken any of those other characters and put them in his shoes, they would probably have done the same thing he did. And that's kind of human nature. And it's not good or bad in that movie. That's not. I wouldn't call that grim, but on top of that, in a post-apocalyptic world, you're also knocking out a lot of the human race.
Yeah.
And then when we get lowered to basically it's just the strongest survive, because that's kind of what it turns into. That's when I think you get the crappiest people that are, the people that want to live like that now. They don't see the good in a lot of them. And that's kind of who's still... Yeah,
I hate to be so cynical in theory, but I look at a character of Chiwetel Ejiofor. He's the successor to Julianne Moore's character in this film. Everyone seems high on him, and then you see him doing dirty deeds behind the scenes, and he's the one responsible for that taking place. And so it's like, well, he seemed like a really good guy, reserved, tough, but he's got an ulterior motive. I tend to not trust that people have clear motives, and that's where I'm identifying with this film. Even though Julianne Moore, Clive Owen, Key have flaws, they know that ultimately what they want at the end of this film, that's the important part. You can't go behind people's back. You can't, break this and break that and break this kind of trust and do the wrong thing and think for yourself. You've got to think for a higher purpose. And so this film really speaks to me, basically.
And it all comes back to, like you were saying, where you're at, where you're approaching it. I know, Sean, that seeing the good in people, that's a huge thing that, affects this movie. And then, me... kind of the thing that bothered me about Sorry to Bother You, that's something I'm bringing. I mean, it's there. They're there for both of us.
Yeah.
We're not bringing it to the movie, but it's where we are mentally with certain, things in movies that just are pet peeves or maybe not even pet peeve, just something that takes you out of the movie.
I acknowledge the artistry.
Yeah.
It's inarguable. He's an amazing director.
Well, I think of that sound design too. The particular last 15 minutes that I'm speaking of, with so much fire taking place, not literal fire, but like fire,
Right.
crossfire, et cetera, going by. There's so much interesting there that could blow your face off, your ears off, or whatnot. Bullets going left and right, or whatever. Explosions that really put you in the mind of Clive Owen. Like, he's experiencing this on the street, and what he has to do is literally go into the belly of the beast to do his job. And with everything going around, you need a well-designed sound structure there. So anyway, it's clearly a technically great film. It's just a matter of where you side with it.
And then the music that they play in it too. I mean, how often do you hear King Crimson in a movie? It does not happen often.
Number 18 in 1988. Squeezed and pulled and hurt my neck in 1988.
Squeezed and pulled and hurt your neck in 1988.
1988?
3 films, 2 of them being sequels. I'll get the one out of the way that I really don't care much about, and that's Big Top Pee-wee. I never watched more than a half hour of Big Top Pee-wee, despite being a fan of the first film directed by Tim Burton. The second one, I just remember the ads for it so much of Pee-wee like going under a tent with a girl and whatnot, and all of a sudden it's Frisky Pee-wee. And it became less weird and childlike, like Pee-wee's Playhouse, and became more of this like weird, horny sex drama to me. Even as a kid, I was recognizing the trailers like, this is making me uncomfortable. So I never saw more than a half hour of it, and I don't really care, but I know that it's clearly not revered like the first film is.
I didn't even really like. I know it's Pee-wee and it's Pee-wee in both movies. I never actually looked at this as a sequel. It's weird. I don't know. It's not like, because it doesn't. It really isn't a continuing story. Like, there's no other characters from the first film. He doesn't acknowledge any of the actions of the first film as if they actually happened. Not to say that that's a defense of the movie. It's a bad movie. It's not a fun movie. I didn't laugh. I didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed the first film. This one seems less imaginative.
My mom always found Pee-wee to be the horny, weird Pee-wee, not the... And then she ended up being right.
Yeah. In a way, you're right.
That didn't help out.
Also a sequel this week is Caddyshack 2. The reason Caddyshack wasn't our classic, I couldn't imagine watching 2 golf films in one week after we just had like the local classic here, and there's just, the golf concentration is too high in this area right now. So Caddyshack 2, I've actually seen a number of times. I've only seen Caddyshack one time, and that's because it's just like Short Circuit 2. It was on HBO a lot in the afternoon because they probably bought it for cheap. Jackie Mason is the star of this movie as a mogul that buys out the country club after it refuses to let him in as a member. You've got some returning characters, like Diane Cannon is there. I can't even remember who else. Chevy Chase.
He's the only thing worth watching in this piece of garbage.
Bill Murray is not there.
No, Dan Aykroyd takes his place.
Yeah. It's not very good. It's not very funny. And if you thought that the first one was funny, I think even fans of the first one think that the second one's kind of mediocre at best.
Garbage. No, it's flat out garbage, this movie. I mean, it's just unfunny. It's bad in every way. Other than occasionally, Chevy Chase walking in and just having complete contempt for the entire process and just being a complete asshole to everybody. That is the best part of this movie, unquestionably. He hates everyone in this movie so much, and he does not give a shit. It's the one thing about this movie that's any fun.
My cousin loves this one, hates the first one.
Go figure.
I don't understand that one, but
imagine, you want to know how bad this movie is if you've never heard of it? This is a movie that Rodney Dangerfield said no to. Look at the shit that Rodney was in the late 90s before he died, in the 2000s before he died, and he said no to this.
And Jackie Mason just isn't that funny. Maybe he's supposed to be, but I just never remember
maybe in the
laughing.
Catskills in the 50s he was killing it, but
maybe the groundhog is in it. If you like that. And also in 1988, a movie I saw for the first time just today, in fact, called Midnight Run, stars Robert De Niro and Charles Grodin. It's directed by Martin Brest of Beverly Hills Cop. And as comparisons go, that one's on its own. Beverly Hills Cop is an all-time classic, but this one is really good. I loved this movie today. The chemistry, the antagonism between De Niro and Grodin works really, really well. Grodin being the straight man, and De Niro, he's not really the loose cannon here, but he's definitely a hothead of sorts, and it gets him in trouble, and he can't really see the big picture until Grodin's mob accountant gets in the way. I loved most of this movie. If there's anything I would want it to change, it's with most Martin Brest films. He's bloated as a director. He can't reel himself in. And this one has a little extra to it. Like, there's almost too many plot contrivances going on, and it didn't need to be that complicated to enjoy.
2 hours and 7 minutes is a little long for the movie.
Absolutely.
But it is enjoyable otherwise.
Yeah. In watching John Huston, who played Taggart in the Beverly Hills Cop films, watching him get one-upped by Robert De Niro every time is really great to see. I loved Yaphet Kotto in this film as the FBI agent who's constantly having to explain that he's the real Alonzo, the real FBI agent. I had a great deal of fun with this one.
It's been a while. I remember liking it. I haven't seen it since the early 90s, but Martin Brest, oh man, that guy's career is not great. Don't look at his, if you look at this filmography, he did Meet Joe Black. That is a brutal film. Brutal. Uh-oh. That is 3 hours of just death. It is just pure death for 3 hours.
That opening scene is phenomenal, though.
He did Scent of a Woman.
Is it not? I mean, come on.
Scared the shit out of me.
Watching Brad Pitt get hit by a car.
Like
twice.
4 times. Yeah.
Yeah, it was 1, 2, and then hit again. Yeah.
And then his career ended in 2003. How? Geely.
Oh, yeah.
That's not fair.
But in all, Beverly Hills Cop is an
he also did
all-time
Scent of a Woman. That's a piece of crap too.
That's the movie where Pacino's like, oh, so this is what I got to do to get an Oscar. I'll just do it all the time now.
And that's it for 88.
Next week we have Teen Titans Go to the Movies.
Oh yeah,
that's it.
Fantastic.
Next week is our Tom Cruise episode.
Yeah, Mission Impossible 6, Cocktail turns 30, and then our classic is Born on the 4th of July. So our top 5 is top 5 Tom Cruise movies.
That you think you could beat up?
Yeah, which movies you can beat Tom Cruise up in, and which ones you can't.
Well, 4th of July is in a wheelchair, so you got that one.
Yeah.
No! Just kidding. There's a lot of wheelchair guys who can kick my ass. I'm just joking. Yeah. If you've seen the documentary about those guys who play rugby in wheelchairs, or forget it.
Rugby in wheelchairs.
Murder Ball? What was it? What were they playing in that?
I think that's what it was called. I can't remember. I know what you're talking about, but I don't.
Those guys will whoop anybody's ass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they're not casting Denzel and Liam Neeson either. But yeah, that's our show. I do want to thank our Patreon supporters. I actually got the list this week, so let me pull up here. Our key grip levels: Jason Bryant and Charlie Messing. Our character actors: Cousin Jeff, Christina Cato, and Josh Paul.
I think this is the beginning of a beautiful friendship.
Our special effects level: Sarah Ward and Corey from Ivy Envy.
May the Force be with you.
Our associate producer is Jason from New Mexico.
Everybody has to eat shaving cream once in a while.
And our movie stars are Uncle Jeff and Dave Sievers.
I want the truth! You can't handle the truth!
If you want to be a Patreon supporter, head over to ihatecritics.net/Patreon. And it really is the best way to help out the podcast. And if you want, you can also go to Apple Podcasts, subscribe to the show, rate and review the show, and we will read your review on the air. Otherwise, that's our show. We'll see you next week.
That ought to do it. Thanks very much, Ray.
And we're the three best friends that anybody could have. We're the three best friends that anyone could have. We're the three best friends that anyone can have. And we'll never, ever, 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 ever leave each other. We're the best three friends that anybody can have. I mean the three best friends that anybody can have. That's right, the three best friends.
1408 or 28 days later.
28 days later.
1408.
What is 1408 again? I know.
Samuel Jackson, John Cusack, Hotel, Stephen
that's
King
right.
adaptation.
28 days later. I do like that movie, though. I couldn't tell by the picture. The Four Musketeers, 1974, or Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
I think I need to get rid of the Four Musketeers.
Agreed. I haven't seen that one.
The Hunger Games, or Lock, Stock.
Hunger Games.
Lock, Stock.
I'm going to go Lock, Stock as well. The Birds, or Office Space.
Ooh, that's tough. That is a tough one. Office Space?
Yeah, it's Office Space for me, too. I feel bad as a person on a film podcast saying that, but yeah.
But Office Space doesn't get the kind of love it deserves in terms of just being a film, not just being funny, but as a movie.
No, I agree. And it, similar to like The Big Lebowski, it is a movie that seems to get better every time you watch it. Oblivion, 2013. I don't know what that is.
Tom Cruise film.
That's probably why I don't know what that is. Or The Deer Hunter.
It's I guess it's half of Deer Hunter.
Yeah, and I'll take half of Oblivion, oddly enough, over Deer Hunter.
I mean, I would say Deer Hunter whether I saw Oblivion or not, but we can just refresh it.
The visuals in the soundtrack of Oblivion are really, really cool, but doesn't have much of a story. It's like Joseph Kosinski's entire career.
And Deer Hunter is one of my top 30 movies, so it would be hard to not be that. But we can just refresh. Heaven and Earth, 93, or Cinderella Man, 05.
You see anybody else seen Heaven and Earth?
That's the Tommy Lee Jones movie, right?
It's a Vietnam movie.
I haven't seen all of it. Nope.
Can we refresh that?
Sure. Phantom Menace or Cinderella Man?
Cinderella Man.
The trailer for Cinderella Man.
Cinderella Man, obviously. Bruce Almighty, Phone Booth.
Phone Booth.
Phone Booth.
Yep. Bridget Jones' Diary, Jerry Maguire.
Jerry Maguire.
Jerry Maguire.
Yeah. Doesn't mean the other movie's bad. Just
No, I know, but I really love Bridget Jones' Diary.
Billy Madison, There Will Be Blood.
There Will Be Blood.
There Will Be Blood. Come on, Bob.
Well, yeah, I'm going with that. Twins, Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket.
Full Metal Jacket.
Mm-hmm. When does Twins turn 30?
This year. We'll see it
Yay.
November or December, if I'm not mistaken.
It's time to vote against Predator again.
Got a puppy yesterday, and we finally came to an agreement on a name as the three of us in our household. And
oh, boy.
Named it Arnie.
Oh, my
after
God.
Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Stallone is so much better than Schwarzenegger. Predator or The Shining?
The Shining.
What?
The Shining or The Predator. Or Predator.
Oh, did you purposely pull up Predator?
It popped up, and that's why I said we're time to vote against Predator again.
Oh, okay.
And I knew it was The Shining, so I knew it would be a landslide.
The Shining is correct.
See, I have the ability to see these before you guys do. Bram Stoker's Dracula, 92, or Jerry Maguire?
Jerry Maguire.
Jerry Maguire.
Yep. When are they going to make another Dracula movie?
He was supposed to be in a shared universe, but didn't work out.
Yeah.
Are they going to keep trying that universe, or are they quit completely?
The last that I heard that is it may not be dead.
Ugh.
May not be. But that's so weird.
Would they start
did
over?
Promotional images and everything and cast people and...
Yeah, Yes Man, Alien Resurrection.
Yes Man.
Yes Man.
This is great audio.
Country internet, man. What are you gonna do?
Planet of the Apes, 1968, or Pretty Woman.
Oh, it's Planet of the Apes. By a lot. Even though I love Julia.
Tootsie, 82, or Cruel Intentions.
Tootsie.
Tootsie.
Which we need to bring that to the show. We promised Uncle Jeff at some point. Sherlock Holmes, 09. X-Men, The Last Stand, 06.
Sherlock Holmes.
X-Men, The Last Stand.
Is that the one that Brett Ratner did?
Yes.
Sherlock Holmes. I don't know. I just said the name wrong once and I got in trouble, so I wanted to make sure I was positive. Body Snatchers, 93. Goldfinger.
I don't remember 93 Body Snatchers, honestly.
Okay.
Neither do I.
Can leave Goldfinger. I think that was the one Josh made me watch.
Yes.
And Annie Hall.
Annie Hall.
Annie Hall.
Yep. Make the safe choice. That's what it says. Telling us to do. As if the wrong choice matters. Cool Runnings or No Country for Old Men.
No Country for Old Men.
Agreed.
Heaven Help Us, 85, or The Crow.
Heaven Help Us. I'm not sure. I don't remember.
Neither do I.
We'll refresh that one.
Sure.
What's going to beat The Crow? Everything You Always Wanted to Know About Sex. I've never seen that.
The Woody Allen movie.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that
All right,
myself.
we'll refresh that again so Sean can't kill the crow on his own. Gran Torino or The Crow?
The Crow.
The Crow.
I haven't seen The Crow in a while, even though... Did we make it a classic once, or did we just talk about it?
No, that was supposed to be the week of Proyas for Gods of Egypt. We ended up making Dark City instead.
So I would take Gran Torino, but maybe if I saw it. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Crow's underrated.
Minority Report or The Others?
Minority Report.
Agreed.
I would pick The Others.
I have a feeling that's going to end up as my number one for next week's top 5.
Minority Report?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I'll have to look at his film. It's a vast filmography, but right now, yeah.
Even more than Jerry Maguire?
Indeed.
Well.
Yeah, it wouldn't be on my top 5, probably. Spotlight or Rocky Balboa?
Spotlight.
Spotlight.
Yep. We can do one more fun one. Superman 2, 1980. The Jungle Book, 1967.
The Donner cut or the theatrical? No, I'm just kidding.
I don't know. Jungle Book.
Superman 2. Kneel before Zod.
I'll take Superman 2 as well. Spotlight is 84. I don't know why it's telling me that, but did you know there's a bowling alley opening up down the street with a restaurant in it called the Abides Bar and Grill?
What?
No kidding. Is that in the old Milan Lanes location?
Yeah.
Wow.
Okay.
Good for them.
Wow.
Hopefully it works.
Should be fun.
Forrest Gump or the Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End?
Pirates of the Caribbean.
Agreed. Of all of the Pirates movies, one's the least offensive to me.
If the legacy of this podcast could be that we destroy the Legend of Forrest Gump, that would be. We've already done it to Crash. I think we've done that. I'm giving us credit for destroying Crash.
I'm giving myself credit personally.
As well, you should.
There was a Forrest Gump 2 trailer that was a joke that was released online, and there were some people that are part of my extended group that thought that it was a real thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't wait to see this. I'm like, oh no.
No.
Django Unchained or Austin Powers and Goldmember.
Now, Forrest Gump and a Django Unchained remake. I don't know how that would work. Which movie? It's Django. Yeah,
agreed.
Obviously.
Tarantino versus silly Mike Myers movie. Wasn't Mike Myers in
Inglourious Basterds? Yeah.
We may just have to call it a show.
Yeah, we're not getting any fun ones.
We're not getting. Oh, here we go. This isn't fun, but Batman Begins or Mars Attacks.
Batman Begins. Yeah.
Batman Begins, but
Mars Attacks. I hate Mars Attacks.
Mars Attacks, watched that like in January or February this year. It's so fucking underrated. It is unbelievably underrated. I laughed my ass off.
All right, I got a fun one to end it on. Space Jam or Batman Forever.
Which one is that?
That's
Val
the Riddler.
Val Kilmer, Tommy Lee Jones.
That was not that bad. What's
Chase
the other
Meridian.
Movie? What's the other movie?
Space Jam, though. That's actually good. not that bad versus good. I mean, come on.
Fishing with Gandhi.
Oh, yeah, okay. Riddle me this, Bob. What do you think that I would pick here? Because both of them are bad to me. But
I would hope you would take Space Jam, but you're a Batman guy, so I would guess Batman.
some of the things in Batman Forever are enjoyable.
Space Jam?
Yeah.
All right, Space Jam.
He's Harvey Dent. You got to keep the original guy.
Right, that's bullshit. Trust me, I know. And you can't pay Michael Keaton what he wants, but you'll pay Arnold
for that alone.
You know, yeah.